Hi, and welcome to Kitchen Chats. I'm Aimee Kandrac, and today I am here with my mom, Fran Kandrac. Thanks for coming today, Mom.
Thanks for asking me.
Of course. So, as a reminder to our listeners, we are sitting in the kitchen because when something major in life happens, we tend to call our friends and sit in the kitchen and figure crap out. And I know that my mom has had some of these moments.
Oh my gosh.
Do you have any that you are comfortable sharing?
Well, I get emotional, so just bear.
There's usually the disclaimer of crying, laughing, and bad words.
Uh-huh. Well, I have had so many moments.
Yeah.
But the one that comes to mind from my kitchen, and the house I live in now doesn't have a kitchen that we visit in. That's okay. But it was either the day your dad died or the day after.
Mm-hmm.
And I have this vivid memory of my girlfriends sitting in my kitchen. They were sitting around my table organizing what needed to be done.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody answered the phone because back then we all had a landline and the phone was ringing. And somebody manned the phone and somebody was organizing what I needed to do and other things that just plain needed to be done. And it was heartwarming and wonderful.
Yeah. I remember that too.
I bet you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is one of the most vivid memories.
Yeah.
So.
But it's a good memory. I mean,
It
was
is.
a sad time. It was a hard time, but it's just an example of the wonderful friends we have.
It really is. We're just so lucky that we had all of them so many times.
Indeed.
Well, today, because you've had so many opportunities to be supported by your friends and support your friends, today I'd like us to talk about something that I think you are uniquely special at doing, which is making special things around the holidays for someone who's going through any kind of, major life event. Maybe it's not someone who's died. Maybe it's someone who's died or someone who's had cancer or someone who's in the hospital or they're just going through a really rough
Or
patch.
had a baby.
Or had a baby.
That's a huge change in life.
That is a huge change in life. That is a huge change in life.
Yeah. The first thing I think of is just sending a card or a handwritten note. It doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be something you spend days thinking about. One of my closest friends sends me a card for everything. I mean, all year long I get cards and I love it.
Oh, that's really
It's
fun.
just really wonderful. But, especially at Thanksgiving, we could get all mushy and all this about being thankful, which is good.
Right.
But you don't have to. You could just either find a card in the store or pull out a piece of notepaper and say, I'm so thankful for our friendship.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
all you need to say.
Yeah.
And so it can be as easy as that, but it can be more.
It can be more, too. Yeah, I love a nice handwritten note. I'm thinking about you.
Uh-huh.
Something like that. I also know that you are the queen of care packages.
Oh, I do love care
I know you do.
And you know what? I like getting them, but I think I have more fun making them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, care packages are great, and they can be either sent or dropped off.
Right.
And in a care package for the holidays, it might be a package of greeting cards to be sent along with stamps and a fun marker.
Oh, I like that idea a lot, especially if somebody like for me, I love to send holiday cards. That is one of my favorite things about the holidays. But if I were having a hard time or just, overwhelmed by whatever is going on in life, that would be amazing to get.
It's also nice to include a package of thank you notes.
Mm-hmm.
And put a Post-it on there to say, I'm happy to come over and help you write these.
Right.
Because even if you address the envelopes, that can take a huge burden off of somebody.
Right.
Anyway, as far as care packages, a package of tea bags, if your friend likes tea.
Mm-hmm.
Some cookies. Even if they don't want to eat cookies, sometimes it's just nice to know you've got something that you can serve to somebody and you don't have to think about going to the grocery. And I can tell you there have been times in my life that I walk into the grocery and it's like, oh my gosh, this place is huge and look at all this stuff. What do people do with all this? I mean, when you're going through an ordeal, simple tasks like going to the grocery are overwhelming.
Oh, yes.
So giving somebody a little basket of kind of essentials,
I think that's
that
great.
can be really helpful.
And I think it's good for me to remember sometimes if someone gives you like cookies or something like that. Like, I am not a big sweets person, so I wouldn't like that. But if you've got people coming in and out of your house a lot, it is nice to be able to say, oh, I do have something I can offer you.
And if you have a family member or your friend has a family member in the hospital,
Either way, yeah.
to be able to take a package of cookies in, put them in their family member's room, and trust me, the medical staff usually tends to like to go to that room because there's really good cookies in room 208. And I know it sounds silly, but that happens.
Oh, it does. I'm married to medical staff who would hunt down the free food.
And I have often done that when I've been visiting a friend in the hospital. I will take a little basket, and I make sure it's a basket I don't need back. I like to fill it with Hershey's, hugs, and kisses.
Right.
Because that's just a warm feeling, but just to be able to put in their room. And again, they're visitors. Sometimes it's a topic of conversation. They may get a visitor that's like, what do I say to this person? I mean, it happens.
Oh, yeah, it happens a lot.
So just having a focus is always kind of a nice thing.
Oh, yeah. I have a friend who her favorite thing whenever her wife was in the hospital a lot was having a joke book, because you didn't really know what to say to a lot of people. It was often a really awkward, hard time, but people came in and she liked having bad jokes that she could share just as I don't really know what to say. I'm kind of tired and exhausted, but we need to have conversation. Here's a joke book that we can at least break the ice.
Right. So thinking back on what you said earlier about during the holidays, there are so many holiday traditions we can expand on, but being in the Midwest, and obviously not everybody has the weather we have in the Midwest, but Thanksgiving is kind of like the symbolic end of fall, winter's coming. And if your friend is hosting people to their house for Thanksgiving, or even if they're not, if their yard is covered with leaves, it's something like that can overwhelm a person.
Oh, yeah.
And so something I have done before, and I love to promote it, is to organize a bunch of friends, because there's all the people saying, what can we do for Mary? What can we do? What can we do? It's so simple to just say, we're going to be at Mary's house at 3 o'clock on Saturday. Bring a rake. If you want to bring some warm cider or a pumpkin or a mum for her steps, that's fine. But bring a rake and bring a few bags, and we're going to clean up her yard. You get 8 or 10 people, you can make a great amount of progress in that time. And
oh, yeah.
Ask somebody to bring a ladder and clean the gutters.
Yeah.
Those things just can make the sun come out even on a gloomy day, because it's overwhelming.
It can be really overwhelming. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And then depending on when you do it, maybe you even string up some lights for...
Well, that's something else that I think is so important to be able to offer to help. And cleaning up the leaves, I don't feel like you even need to let the person know. You can just come and clean them up. But it is a wonderful thing to offer to say, I'd love to help put up your outside decorations. Let the person have the ownership of what they want put up.
Yes,
and
very
where.
important.
Don't just decorate their house for them, unless it's somebody that would love that.
Right.
And then on the flip side of it, after the holidays, when it's bitter cold and it's miserable out, go back and take the decorations down. You can always find a window of a decent day, even if it's cold. You can find a day to get that done. So,
And sometimes taking it down can be a lot quicker and easier. There's not as much thought around it.
exactly.
Just get it down.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's a really nice idea. And you don't have to intrude into their personal space a lot.
Right.
Which is nice.
Right. So along with the practical things that we can do, sometimes if your friend has children, getting their children out of the house for a few hours can be an amazing gift.
Yes.
It allows your friend time to take a nap or clean up the house or binge watch a couple of TV shows. Who cares what they do?
Right.
But some ideas for getting their kids out of the house are to invite their kids to your house to bake cookies. And just have realistic expectations. The kids might have a short attention span. There may not be very many cookies get baked.
Yeah.
If it was me, I would bake a bunch of cookies first so that I still have some.
If it matters to them, but maybe it's just the activity. Exactly.
But it's the activity. And I would have a coloring book and some crayons nearby for when, some of the kids are bored with it.
And also, something else to do, especially around the holidays for families for whom the tradition of giving gifts is really important, is to offer to take the kids out so that they can purchase gifts for the rest of the family.
Yes.
So that they can still be a part of that tradition if it's something that's really important to their family.
Yes. And wrapping them.
Wrapping them.
Have some gift wrap available, including gift bags.
Right. Probably better.
Not everybody wants to wrap the present, but some people love to wrap the present. And,
Right.
And children might really love that creative experience. But have that stuff ready and available so that you're prepared. And if they make a mess, it doesn't matter. After they go home, you can go home and clean up your own house. Just don't worry about that.
Right.
But do it at your house so that your friend doesn't have to have any of that mess adding to their chaos. Let's face it, when we're going through something, I don't care what it is, and I've been through a long list of things, I can tell you, you feel like your life is in chaos. Even if your house is immaculate because your friends have been there to make sure everything's done.
Right. But all of that said, I think there's something that without the children, maybe you can offer to go over some evening and help them wrap all of their gifts.
Well, exactly.
And that is sometimes easier done at your friend's house, so they don't have to
Well, that I
get
would
it all.
absolutely think should happen. And what I would say is, would you like me to bring wrapping paper, or do you have what you want to use? Because
Right.
I don't know about you, but I kind of like picking out my wrapping paper. I want it, I might, some years I like it to all match.
And I don't care because I just want to use whatever I have left.
Right. Well, and I'm the same way.
Right.
I have so much wrapping paper that said, please don't bring any more.
Right. So good to have the conversation to say which is best for you. How can I help with that?
And I think that leads me to a thought that no matter what you're doing, if it's taking a meal, running errands, house sitting, whatever it is, ask your friend what they want and then respect what they tell you.
Yeah.
We've all been there where we have a friend who is insistent on something that you just don't want. And you finally just give in and say, fine, do it your way because I can't cope with arguing with you. Don't put your friend in that position.
Right.
So, I'm going to give out some other ideas because we wanted to talk about holiday stuff. And I don't mean to dwell on sweets, but the holidays.
It's one of your favorite things to do at the holidays, Mom.
It is. But it's also, I think, for a lot of people, baking or serving or entertaining is part of the holidays. And a cookie exchange can be a wonderful thing, even if your friend doesn't participate or comes but doesn't bake anything, doesn't bring anything. Doing a cookie exchange where maybe you invite 12 friends and everybody's supposed to bring 3 dozen cookies or something like that. And they're supposed to bring containers to take cookies home. Well, there's always those friends that, I know you said 3 dozen, but I brought 4 different kinds, so I brought 3 dozen of each. So you're going to have a lot of cookies.
Oh my God, the thought of this overwhelms me so much.
But for the friend who is going through a rough time and loves to have holiday goodies but just can't deal with getting them together this year.
Right.
Or their mother is in the hospital and they want to be able to take something for the staff. Again,
Right.
this is a quick, simple way for them to have a huge platter with a big assortment.
Yeah.
And store-bought is okay. Not everybody has to bake their own. Store-bought stuff is really good, and sometimes a lot of people prefer store-bought, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
And they can look beautiful on a big platter
Mm-hmm.
or several small platters.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just an idea of a way to get friends together, to rally some support, but sometimes you need a purpose. You don't want to just go show up at somebody's house. So
Right. I think that having a purpose around what you're doing, especially around the holiday time, because I feel pulled so many directions so often as it is. And while I do really want to get together with someone, especially people who are having something going on, it can be daunting. And what am I doing? I don't really want to just have to sit there and talk about the situation. And that might happen anyway, but I really like the idea of having a purpose around it. And knowing that just bring store-bought cookies or just show up. And it's really okay. You don't even have to take cookies home if you don't want.
Right.
All of these things are fine. Along that lines, like to think about what traditions does the family or your friend usually have, and how can you help make sure that that tradition can continue
Right.
if it's important to them.
Right. Or do they need to change their tradition because of changes in their life? And they may
Right.
not want to change that tradition. So you might be able to help bridge that gap. And nothing comes up to mind right now, but this afternoon I'll call you back and say, oh my gosh,
Right.
it's how my brain works. I can't help it.
But if the tradition is the family goes and cuts down a Christmas tree, or the family always goes and visits a museum that's really special to them around the holidays, if you can help facilitate that.
Exactly. Either taking part of the family or all of the family, or bringing that experience to them somehow.
Right.
I'm reminded of Laura, who is the person for whom What Friends Do got started. And when she was going through her treatment for brain cancer, and she could not sit up, she could not go listen to Christmas music, and she said to her sister, I just wish I could be able to hear Christmas music, people singing it. And her sister called me, and I said, oh, we'll make that happen. So I like to promote doing a caroling party. And it doesn't have to be Christmas songs. It can be winter songs. It can be whatever kind of songs. It doesn't have to be at the holidays. It could be in the middle of June, which would be kind of fun. So the way I think it is good to organize this is to give everybody, first of all, coordinate it with a family member. You don't want to just show up unannounced. Because,
Right. This is not just a let's do Friday night caroling type of event.
Right. So make sure that at least one family member knows that, you're going to have a group of carolers that'll be by at 7 p.m. Tell everybody in advance, we're going to meet at 6:45 at this spot. We're going to walk to the house. We're going to sing these 3 songs, and we're going to leave. And to say, we all want to visit, but that's not what we're doing here. You'll get to say hello, maybe give a hug, whatever, but this is what we're going to do. And it'll work out to be whatever it will be, but if you plan it that way, people don't expect it to be the entire evening. They can do it quickly, easily.
Right.
It doesn't matter. And when we did it for Laura, we had something like 45 people, and they ranged in age from, I think Elliot I know he was a baby in arms. So.
I think he was like 6 months old.
Yeah, I was thinking, well, July to
December, yeah. Maybe not quite that old.
But we also had people in their 90s. And I doubt there was anybody in the group who knew everybody. It was just a combination of people. It was wonderful. We walked to Laura's house, rang the doorbell. We all went inside, which we weren't expecting. We sang 3 songs, and during this time, she was on cloud 9. And she would just kind of reach out to different people for a hug throughout this time. And then we left.
And I remember her family just, I think, I remember them feeling really happy to be able to have so many people around also.
Yes. And I will say too, going back to the time we supported Laura, one of the things that I remember so much is that her mom was saying that she had been listening to NPR to a interview with different family members who had somebody going through cancer, and they were all saying how lonely they felt and how they just felt excluded from the world. And she said, we never had one moment of that because there was so much love and support, but it was not intruding in their space either.
Right.
And so I think, it's just a balance of knowing your friend and knowing how you can do that. But I think the most important thing I want to say is don't go away.
Right. Especially not during the holidays when you can get so busy with your own stuff.
Yes.
So busy with your own life. Even if nothing's going on, I can feel really overwhelmed with, my God, the thought of a cookie exchange makes my head hurt. But
if you knew that you were going to have a house full of people for the weekend, if you could go to that cookie exchange and come home with the big tray of cookies.
Well, yes, exactly. And the other thought is everyday things during the holidays can be overwhelming.
Right.
And so making sure we keep our friend and their family top of mind so that they don't feel as overwhelmed and lonely and isolated. Because especially during specific days, right? Like Christmas Day, Christmas Eve, a lot of times families go and visit with their other families. And I know right after Dad died was Thanksgiving. And I was going with Brett's family and had kind of already had that planned. And
your sister was going with her boyfriend's family and already had that planned. And
we felt really sad and guilty that we were going to be leaving you home by yourself.
Well, you know what? This is kind of weird because it was literally like 2 weeks after your dad died.
I remember.
It was a hard time, but I had a wonderful day. 7 different friends invited me to their Thanksgiving dinner. And so I just decided to accept all of them. And I had a progressive Thanksgiving Day, and it was wonderful. I got to see a lot of friends. I got to eat a lot of good food. I got to see sometimes those mashed potatoes don't look very good, and it's okay because they know I'm going to 3 more houses. I know it sounds silly, but let's be honest, we're all people. And then we ended up at the very last house I went to was one of my very closest friends and one of your dad's closest friends. And then Stephanie and her boyfriend ended up coming over there. So we got to have a little bit of a family time. I'm sure we called you, but
I'm sure, yeah.
So I want to say something else about those actual days. Thanksgiving Day, Christmas Day. We live in a wonderful age of technology. I love technology. But it's okay to send somebody a text on Thanksgiving Day. It's a nice thing to do that on Thanksgiving Day. Or even, a phone call you might feel like, well, I don't want to interrupt. Well, yeah, but maybe they're just sitting there feeling lonely, and that interruption is the best thing ever. Know that your expectation, if you reach out to your friend, don't expect them to be available for a 15-minute call. If they say, oh my gosh, we're just sitting down to eat, say, no problem, I'm thinking of you, have a great day.
And they don't have to answer. Right?
That's right.
You can leave a voice message.
Yes.
Like, that's a little old-fashioned. My kids would be like, what? Why is somebody calling? But, I think that is really nice to do. And just say, hey, I'm thinking about you today. And I hope that you're having at least, I'm just thinking about you today. Right? Because it might be awkward to say, I hope you're having a good day. Because it might be a really hard day for them.
Exactly.
And even if it's not a death, right? Like, maybe it's, like you said, fun things that can happen and be overwhelming, like, oh, you had a new baby. It still might not be that fun of a day because you might not have slept in a week, but...
Right, and you might feel like, I can't take my baby to the family gathering because Aunt Gertrude is coming and she hasn't been vaccinated and that's her choice, but I worry about exposing my baby to whatever. Or there's just a multitude of reasons why it might be a rough day.
There's a lot of reasons why it might be a rough day. Family holidays can be rough without major things going on.
Exactly.
For a lot of people.
Exactly.
So again, it is sometimes nice to have even the distraction of a text coming through.
Right. And then on the flip side, maybe you're not doing much with family on that particular day and you know that your friend isn't, and maybe you send a text and say, it is gorgeous outside, would you like to go for a walk?
Yeah.
And that reminds me that I really want to remind people to be specific with your offers. The worst thing ever, and we all do it, we're all guilty of it, what we say, if I can do anything, let me know. Mm-hmm. Well, it's so nice to get in touch with a specific something or other. So as I said, it might be Thanksgiving Day and it's 4:00 and the sun's out and it's gorgeous out, and you say, would you like to go for a walk? And they may say, I really don't want to, but if you want to come by for a glass of wine, that would be great.
That's another offer too.
Say that, yes. So, and so the same thing with getting ready for holidays. Something specific to say, I need to go to the mall on Tuesday. Is there anything I can pick up for you, or would you like to go along?
Right.
You know, things like, I just put up my decorations and I'm so grateful I had help. Would you like me to help you? Mm-hmm. So kind of phrase it in a way that lets them know that you're thinking of them, and you know that it's not that they're not capable. You don't want to ever make somebody feel, you know.
And they might say no. And
Exactly.
that's okay too.
And that's okay. And that goes back to what I said earlier. Respect what they say.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And they might say, I don't want any decorations this year. And you might think, well, that's not very joyful. Well, that might be what they need.
Right. Right. They really,
and that's okay.
yeah.
We need to respect that.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
So speaking of decorations, though, another thing to do with kids is light seeing.
Oh yeah, that was a big family tradition for us.
It was for us, and it was fun, and I know the families we did it with, all of the adults and the kids, have fond memories of that. But it's a way to get children
and adults.
Well, the adults might want to go too.
Right.
But it also might be a way to say, you guys can have your own quiet dinner or whatever, and the kids will be gone for 3 hours.
Right.
Have a plan of where you're going to go. Don't just drive around randomly hoping you see some lights. But
right.
And for those of you listening who don't know what light seeing is, it's just driving around looking at the holiday lights. And every city has some amazing displays. Mm-hmm. You can usually Google it and find, or search on the internet and find different places, neighborhoods that are spectacular. Mm-hmm. But, just ask a few friends and they'll say, oh, there's the house at such and such. You have to go by.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that is a fun one. And that one doesn't necessarily have to be Christmas specific, right? Like you can still maybe enjoy looking at lights, even if you don't celebrate Christmas.
Right, exactly. So something else that, speaking of driving, one of my favorite things, and it's year-round, every day of the year, is paying it forward at a drive-up. Mm-hmm. And for those of you listening who aren't real sure what this might be, because I never want to assume everybody knows, when you go to a drive-up window to get some sort of food or a coffee or whatever, when you go to pay for your order, you pay for the car behind you. Mm-hmm. And
or leave it, or pay for something for the people that are working there is something that I really love. Because if they're in line already, it's a lovely gift, but they probably have already budgeted that.
Oh, you mean the other patrons inside?
No, I mean the people who are working there.
Okay.
I mean, leave an extra pay it forward tip for the people who are working there also.
Definitely. And also, if you're inside a restaurant and you're in line getting food, I kind of love the idea of buying a few gift cards and then just giving people who are in line on the way out.
Yeah, that's a fun one.
It's so fun to do something random and anonymous because the other people aren't expecting it. They might think, who was that person? I don't even remember. Was she wearing a green coat? They don't.
Yeah.
They're taken by surprise, but it makes somebody's day. And even if it's the person working at the counter who gets to be part of that.
Yeah.
It can make their day. I love seeing the checkout people, how excited they get when they get to be part of a Pay It Forward.
Yes. And knowing that it probably is going to have a ripple effect.
Absolutely. Because most of the time, I think when you then pull up and they tell you, well, the driver ahead of you paid for it, and that you're long gone by now.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time, like if it's for me, I'm overwhelmed and I'm so excited, and I said, well, then I'll pay for the car behind me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the concept, and you'd love to pull around the corner and sit and watch and see how long it goes on, because you'd
that's
just be
fun.
able to tell by the reactions on everybody's faces. And so that's not specific for your friend going through something, but if you yourself are going through something and you're feeling down, give it a try. Because
that's a really fun one.
You'll be amazed at how good it'll make you feel.
Mm-hmm.
I do it on my birthday when I get a free drink from my favorite coffee place.
Uh-huh.
I go in and I get it, but I say, but it's my birthday and I want to give a gift to the car behind me, and I'm going to pay for their order.
That's a fun one.
So.
Yay. So, do you have any other tips you would like to share right now?
Oh, I could go on and on.
I know you can go on and on.
You've got lots of great ideas on the website.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to definitely promote looking at what friends do for ideas. Really, you can find ideas there for any time of the year.
Well, and hopefully we'll have you back to talk about other ideas different times of the year.
I would love that.
So in closing, what is your favorite thing to do for someone when they're going through any major event?
I don't think of anything specific other than I like to do something that's anonymous. It's just nice to do something that's going to be a nice kindness for somebody and also helpful. I like it to be practical, but also just fun.
Fun and
I don't know,
anonymous.
I wish I had a better answer for that.
No, that's okay. So what is the best thing that anyone has done for you?
My gosh, we could fill 2 hours with the amazing things people have done for me. I think for me personally, the best thing people have done for me over different trying times in my life is when they've done kindnesses for my children. There were times in life that life was very hard, and I couldn't be the mom I wanted to be and that I needed to be. And I had friends who stepped up to the plate, either friends of mine or parents of my kids' friends.
Mm-hmm.
And they would often call and say, I know things are rough. Is it okay if I invite your daughter to go to the lake with us next week?
Mm-hmm.
And you and your sister probably didn't realize those plans were set out, but that to me was just the best, because of everything I've done in my life, being a mom is the most important thing to me. And
thanks.
it's what I value more than anything. And I have been so blessed by so many other people helping me be a mom. Can't do it alone.
You can't do it alone. That's really special. Thank you. And thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.